past, we've discussed the Lambda-Class Shuttle, the famous Imperial Shuttle that shuttled troops and VIP personnel to and from various vessels in orbit or Imperial facilities. Well, today I want to talk about the slightly more militaristic, larger cousin of it, the Sentinel-Class landing craft. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So, the Sentinel-Class landing craft has a lot of similarities to the Lambda-Class Shuttle, but serves a very different role and is designed for a completely different purpose. So, I figured today would be a great opportunity to sort of dive into the history and the background of this vessel, especially because I honestly think it looks better than the Lambda, and I would not be surprised if it wasn't more common in the Imperial military than the Lambda, simply because its purpose is serving a wider chunk of the Imperial military. So before we talk about what that purpose is, let's discuss the numbers. The Sentinel-Class landing craft was designed by Sinar Fleet Systems and manufactured by Cygnus Space Workshop. It came in at about 38 meters long, making it significantly larger than the Lambda-Class Shuttle. In atmosphere, it was capable of doing 1,000 kilometers an hour, which is possible thanks to its HD-7 engine arrays, of which it has 2. When it comes to hyperspace travel, its primary hyperdrive was a Class 1, and its backup was a Class 10, making it a pretty fast vessel in hyperspace, which makes sense, it's pretty small. As for weapons, it was actually surprisingly well armed, with 8 laser cannons scattered around the vessel, allowing it to engage starfighters and forces on the ground. That is supported by a pair of concussion missile launchers for engaging targets at greater range or making precision strikes. Furthermore, there were 2 blaster turrets designed for anti-personnel work as the vessel was landing, and a single ion cannon turret for disabling vessels. Now, that brings me to the primary purpose of this vessel, which is carrying troops. The Sentinel-Class landing craft could carry up to 75 Imperial stormtroopers into battle at a time, or over 100 tons of cargo. On top of that, it could carry a variety of different vehicles. They would often carry up to 6 Z-95 speeder bikes and up to 12 E-Web blasters, which could be deployed by the troops once they've exited the vessel. Now, I've talked a lot about its differences between the Lambda, but it really comes down to this specific difference. The Sentinel is designed primarily as a troop ship, while the Lambda is first and foremost a shuttle for executives and high-ranking Imperial officers. The Sentinel is designed to deliver large numbers of Imperial troops to the surface of a planet. Now, it's not as effective as dedicated gunships like we see with the Grand Army of the Republic and their LAATs, but it is very effective at carrying mass quantities of soldiers, even though they're not as effective at clearing out a landing zone. So, while an LAAT could sweep in and clear out a landing area and then land and release its troops, the Sentinel basically has to rely on its heavier armor and its turreted weapons to clear out the area before landing and releasing almost 100 stormtroopers, which is a significant number for a single landing craft. And then understand that there would be several of these coming in at once, and they could easily overwhelm an enemy with infantry, which is exactly what the Empire does. They focus on numbers to overwhelm an enemy by simply pouring manpower at them. And that's what made the Sentinel so popular with Imperial Strategic Command. They could easily deploy whole units of stormtroopers to the surface of a planet without having to land any large capital ships or use massive transports like an acclimator, for example. They could land a few Sentinels and have a whole area secured simply by pouring stormtroopers into an area. Furthermore, the Sentinel was uniquely capable of defending a landing zone once it was on the ground. By deploying these turrets, it became a pretty decent static position for holding an area long enough to deploy its troops. Now, it's not ideal, but it is a useful tool, and when you think of the battles the Empire was fighting, or at least planning on fighting, this makes a lot more sense. Now, a lot of people are quick to point out that the Sentinel is not as capable as an LAAT, and I've made that comparison a lot in this video because it is relevant. After all, the predecessor to the Empire, the Republic, relied a lot on low-altitude gunships to carry their troops around, and the LAAT is a remarkably effective gunship and a pretty good troop transport, but it was designed to fight in a war, to engage ground forces directly and to fight a force that is more or less equal. The Empire really envisioned this being used to dump mass quantities of troops onto a planet to quickly gain control of a situation that was an out-of-control civilian populace, or a small rebellion, not necessarily a fully equipped military designed to face off against them. And as a result, when the Empire ended up in a war with the Rebel Alliance, the Sentinel did struggle. It's slower and less capable of ground attack than its predecessors, which ultimately made it an easier target for Rebel anti-air assets. That being said, the Rebellion still had to be bold enough and entrenched enough to shoot down Imperial landing craft, and the Imperials quickly learned that they could just land further away from their target. Furthermore, the Sentinel had the interesting ability of carrying AT-STs to the surface of a planet in large disposable crates, which could be mounted to the bottom of the vehicle. Now, these are something that we see a lot more in Legends than in Canon, but we have seen them a few places in Canon, so we know it's possible. Now, arguably this role is still better suited by a Gazanti, which can deliver 2 AT-STs at once, but it is something that the Sentinel can do, sort of widening the strategic options for an Imperial commander planning a planetary invasion. That being said, we do see a lot, particularly in the later years of the Galactic Empire, that they do lean on the Lambda shuttle to fill a similar role. So, it's not exclusively the Sentinel's role to deliver troops, but the Sentinel was designed for that, where, like I said, the Lambda was designed more for VIP transport than anything else. That being said, if you'd like to learn about the Lambda and the role it played during the Galactic Civil War and in the Empire, I'll leave a link up here to my video on that. And I'd like you to let me know down in the comments whether you think the Sentinel-class landing craft was really necessary. Do you think the Empire would have been better off focusing on other large transports, or do you think they would have been better off relying on small gunships like the Republic did, even though it reduces the number of troops they could easily deploy to a battlefield? And if you have anything else you'd like to see me cover in Star Wars or anywhere else in science fiction, you can also let me know down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.